stunning day on a Wednesday night. Wintrust Arena, the Sky fans finally get their home opener as they welcome in the 2-2 Dallas Wings. And she is back in the lineup, suited and booted in the Canadian short tuxedo, if you will. Skylar Diggins making her debut in front of these fans. And of course, Paige Bueckers. It will be Odyssey Sims, Paige Bueckers, Arike Agumawale, Jessica Shepard, and Alana Smith for the Dallas Wings. On the other side, making their debut in front of their home fans, Skylar Diggins, JC Sheldon, Gabriela Jaquez, Natasha Cloud, and Camila Cardoso will get the start for Tyler Marsh. Here's Jaquez as she gets that to go. As Paige Bueckers won't apologize for that. Rachel Banham is going to head to the free throw line.
So they are scoring a lot of buckets.
They trailed by 11. And Shepard put the cape on in the third quarter, and that's when they started to get things rolling here.
The thing I can say today for sure is that the Indiana Fever fans will not let any stone go without being revealed and turned over. We could all say that as Indiana Fever fans. Now, we know that the New York Liberty hosted the Indiana Fever this past weekend. And there was a lot of things that happened in this game. And ultimately, the Indiana Fever left New York City feeling like they robbed them of the Statue of Liberty, bro. They beat them so bad.
Clark, a deep three!
Everything changed the second Sophie Cunningham got hit. Not after a timeout, not after some big speech. Right there on the floor, one hard collision with Breanna Stewart, and every Fever fan felt it in their chest at the same time. The Indiana Fever versus New York Liberty game was already physical before that play. Both teams were throwing their weight around, testing each other, making it clear this wasn't going to be a clean 40 minutes. But that moment with Sophie, that's when everything actually shifted. You could feel it through the screen. And here's the thing. Indiana didn't look rattled. They looked dangerous. The player who flipped most noticeably was the one New York should have never given a reason to flip.
The WNBA referees is going to try to do everything in their power to make sure the Fever, for whatever reason, does not become the face of this league. And at the end of the day, they're the modern-day Lakers, and can't nobody stop them because the fans are behind them. Now, with that being said, there's countless plays and stuff that is starting to come out.
Caitlin Clark didn't yell. She didn't stare anyone down. She didn't chase drama. She just changed. Her pace, her reads, the way she was moving the ball, all of it sharpened in real time. She stopped playing within New York's game and started forcing them into hers. That's so much harder to deal with than sideline explosions because you can't slow it down with a foul. You can't scheme your way out of it at halftime. Once Clark decided she was taking the wheel, that was it. Because this was supposed to be just another early Fever Liberty battle, a physical game, a high-energy matchup where bodies hit the floor, defenders fight over screens, and nobody gives up easy space. But it never felt small.
Then it's another slow-mo of the cheap shot by Breanna Stewart. Thank you. So this is the full play here. So this is a slow motion version of it. So as you guys can see here, just look at this. Boom, bro. Boom. Just completely look at Breanna Stewart's face. And this is who we got in charge of negotiating the CBAs. Look at this. Like, how do something like this happens always to the Indiana Fever, bro? All the time. And Sophie Cunningham did a double drag hard.
The Liberty came in with size, experience, and championship-level physicality. The Fever came in with something different. Caitlin Clark back on the floor, Sophie Cunningham bringing edge, and an Indiana team trying to prove it wouldn't get pushed around this season. That's why the moment mattered, because this wasn't just about points. It was about identity. Could Indiana handle the contact? Could they handle the pressure? Could they protect their stars? Could they finally punch back without losing control? For a while, the game felt physical but manageable, until one play changed the temperature entirely. The play itself became the flashpoint. Sophie Cunningham gets caught in a hard physical moment with Breanna Stewart. It happens fast. The contact comes. The whistle comes. But the reaction is what made it feel different. Players pause. Fans react. The energy tightens. And suddenly, this isn't just another screen or another foul. It becomes the moment everybody wants to replay.
One being that this play right here that's involving Breanna Stewart and a referee and Sophie Cunningham. Now, this was very, very interesting to me that this play went unnoticed. Now, in this play, mind you, this isn't footage that was captured by the game. This was taken by a fan in the stands. Now watch this play. Let's watch this play real quick. Let me kill the sound because it got copyright music. You guys see that? Did y'all? And now she throwing up her hands. She throwing up her hands like she ain't just damn me. Boom. Lead forward and assault Sophie Cunningham, bro. Dirty fucking play there. That was a dirty play. Now, it looked like the referee actually might caught this. It says, we need to protect our enforcer Sophie Cunningham at all costs. This cheap elbow shot by 30 on the New York Liberty team, Breanna Stewart, was not acceptable. Where were the referees?
Fever fans weren't just watching the live play anymore. They were slowing down the angles, watching Sophie take the contact frame by frame, watching the referee response, and a lot of fans felt the same thing. That looked rough. That looked dangerous. That looked like something that deserved a harder look. You can debate the call. You can debate the intent. You can debate whether it was just physical basketball or something more. But what you cannot debate is the shift that happened right after. Because Indiana didn't fold. Indiana didn't back away. Indiana changed. And the player who changed first was the one New York could least afford to wake up. When people hear that Clark exploded, they might picture yelling, pointing, some viral sideline moment where emotions boil over. But that's not what made this dangerous. Clark exploded by locking in. Her pace changed. Her face changed. Her control changed. She started reading the floor like the game had slowed down for her and sped up for everyone else. That's the difference between emotion and leadership. Some players get hit with a moment like that and lose their head. Clark used it. She took the energy from that foul and turned it into pressure. Every possession sharper, every pass more deliberate, every decision carrying more weight behind it. She didn't point at Breanna Stewart. She didn't sell the drama. She didn't need to. She just made New York feel the response possession by possession. Clark didn't explode by losing control. She exploded by taking it. And once Clark grabbed the controls, the Liberty's biggest problem was that Indiana had another player ready to pour fuel on the fire. Raven Johnson became the accelerator. Clark changed the control of the game. Raven changed the speed of it. Her energy gave Indiana another layer. Now the Fever weren't just emotionally awake. They were moving faster, cutting harder, reacting quicker, and forcing New York to play under constant pressure. That's when the game started to tilt, because when Clark is controlling the floor and Raven is pushing the tempo, the defense has to make impossible choices. Step up too high, and Clark sees the gap. React too late, and Raven is already gone. Overhelp, and Indiana finds the next pass before you've even recovered. That's how one hard foul becomes something much bigger. It becomes a response, it becomes momentum, it becomes a message. Once momentum flipped, New York stopped dictating the game and started chasing it. One possession became two. Two possessions became pressure. Pressure became mistakes. And mistakes became a run Indiana fans could feel building in real time. The Liberty tried to settle things down, but emotionally, the game was already moving away from them. Indiana looked different. The ball had more purpose. The cuts were harder. The Fever stopped looking like the team absorbing contact and started looking like the team controlling the fight. And that's the part Fever fans noticed immediately, because this was no longer just a response to Sophie getting fouled. This was Indiana making a statement. You could feel it in the way Clark handled the floor. You could feel it in the way Raven attacked space. You could feel it in the way the Fever refused to let the moment make them smaller. Instead, it made them sharper. That's what made the whole sequence feel bigger than the box score. Because the real reason this blew up is that Fever fans saw something they'd been waiting all offseason to see. Indiana finally looked like it had an edge. For months, the question around this team has been simple. Can they protect Caitlin Clark? Not just physically, emotionally, competitively, culturally. Can the Fever handle the league throwing pressure at them? Can they respond when games get ugly? Can they stay composed when opponents try to turn basketball into a fight? That's why Sophie Cunningham matters. She represents edge. That's why Raven Johnson matters. She represents pace and pressure. But Caitlin Clark is still the center of everything. She represents control. And when those three things show up together, edge, pace, and control, Indiana suddenly looks very different. This doesn't look like the same Fever team that absorbs the moment and waits for Clark to save them late. This version has a pulse. This version has a backbone. This version looks like it knows exactly who it's becoming. And that's what should scare the rest of the WNBA more than the foul itself. Because the foul was one moment. The response was the real story. Sophie Cunningham took the hit. Caitlin Clark saw it. Raven Johnson raised the pressure. And Indiana's entire energy changed. That's how teams grow, not in the easy moments, not when everything is clean, not when the whistle goes exactly how they want. Teams grow when something tests their identity. And this moment tested Indiana hard. Were they going to complain? Unravel? Let New York control the emotional tone of the game? Or were they going to answer? They answered, not with chaos, not with panic, not with fake toughness. They answered with control. And that's the version of Caitlin Clark the WNBA has to worry about. Not just the shooter, not just the passer, not just the highlight machine. The competitor who sees a teammate take a hit, reads the room, feels the shift, and turns the next stretch into a message. If this is the Fever's new identity, Indiana isn't just more talented this season, they're more dangerous. So the real question is simple. Was this just normal physical basketball, or did that foul wake up Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever?
Angel Reese, though. What I found most interesting about this list is where ESPN ranks their face of the league. Unfortunately for Angel Reese, the polish seems to be melting off the turd. ESPN has tried to convince us that Angel Reese is the face of the WNBA. Not only is the matriarch of Me-Bounds the face of the league, according to the media, Angel Reese is the most dominant basketball player in the world.
Angel Reese just got hit with the kind of ESPN reality check that fans do not forget. For months, she was pushed as one of the biggest faces of the WNBA. The personality, the headline, the star who was supposed to help carry the league into a new era. But now, ESPN has put out a ranking that makes that entire story look very different.
In case you're wondering, Angel Reese, still not good from the field. 3 for 7, 10 points. I mean, good God almighty. Not good. By the way, Mystics defeated the Dream. Defeated the Dream. That was ugly. No doubt about it. Speaking of ugly, let's just address this. When does lame-ass Atlanta Dream fix the lighting and change the court color?
Because while Angel Reese is suddenly being questioned, Caitlin Clark is still the name pulling the attention, the ratings, the crowds, and the pressure. And that is where this gets uncomfortable. Because this is no longer just about whether Angel Reese is popular. She is popular. It is no longer just about whether she has fans. She does. The real question is much sharper than that. If Angel Reese is still supposed to be one of the top stars in the WNBA, why does it feel like ESPN is already turning the page? And why does that page keep landing on Caitlin Clark? That is the part nobody can ignore anymore.
Not rocket science to see that since her arrival and the rest of that 2024 class, the WNBA has skyrocketed.
Finally, we have a WNBA player willing to admit that Caitlin Clark is the reason for the elevation of pretend basketball into the mainstream. Finally, we have a WNBA player willing to admit Caitlin Clark is the reason that they are no longer making minimum wage.
Angel Reese entered the league with massive attention. She had the college rivalry. She had the personality. She had the social media following. She had the attitude that made people react, whether they loved her or hated her. And in today's sports world, that matters. Attention is currency. Drama sells. Personality creates clicks. But there is a dangerous line in sports, because being famous is not the same thing as being the best. And that is where the Angel Reese conversation has started to crack, because the media image was moving fast, maybe too fast. Reese was being talked about like a ready-made superstar, a league-changing figure, a player who could sit at the front of the WNBA's new era. But when the games actually started speaking, the story got a lot messier. The rebounding is real, the hustle is real, the effort is real. Nobody can take that away from her, but the offensive problems are also real. The missed layups, the rough finishes, the inefficient shooting nights.
Angel Reese preseason part 2. Let's get it! So many fans in the stands, it's all filled to the brim to see you me-bound! You can really tell she's been in the lab all off season working on that explosiveness. Look right here, she gets almost 2 inches off the ground. Me-bound! Burn! She's got this nasty trick shot where she hip fires layups from 2 feet away, like that. Burn! That shot is her bread and butter. Butter, my God! Burn! Her form is cooked. That ball is so far away, it's in another solar system. Maybe she makes it. Nope. Burn! No. Someone tell her there's not an incentive in your contract that pays you more money for missing layups. That's a prey-up. Burn! I wanted to see a baby giraffe try to play Twister. I go to the circus. What is that? Burn!
The moments where she looks powerful on the glass, but uncomfortable when she has to score cleanly through defenders. That is not hate. That is basketball. And that is why this ESPN ranking hit so hard, because for a long time, fans were told one version of the story. Angel Reese was not just a good player, she was a face. She was a star. She was a major part of the WNBA's rise. But when ESPN had to actually rank the players, suddenly the hype did not feel as loud. Suddenly the conversation changed.
The Atlanta Dream ended up besting the Chicago Sky. And I want to talk about Angel Reese's performance. Overall, in the box score, it looks like she did pretty good. 8.7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. But she went 2 for 7 field goal percentage, shooting 28% from the field and 4 of 8 from the free throw, 50% on free throws. All right. Angel Reese is still doing Angel Reese things as she missed wide open shots, things that she should have made, she didn't make.
And that is humiliating, not because Angel Reese has no value, she clearly does, but because the gap between the media push and the basketball reality became impossible to hide. If someone is truly the face of the league, you do not need to keep reminding everyone every 5 minutes. The audience feels it, the arena feels it, the ratings feel it, the league feels it. And that is exactly why Caitlin Clark makes this entire thing so uncomfortable. Because Caitlin Clark does not need the same level of explanation. Her impact announces itself. When she plays, people watch. When she struggles, people debate it. When she gets fouled, the internet explodes. When she hits a deep 3, it becomes a moment. When she walks into an arena, the energy changes. That is not normal attention. That is gravity. And that is the difference. Angel Reese has fame. Caitlin Clark has gravity. Fame gets people talking for a moment. Gravity pulls the whole league into the conversation. And right now, Caitlin Clark is the player doing that. That does not mean every other player is irrelevant. That does not mean the WNBA should only promote one person. That does not mean Angel Reese cannot grow into a stronger player. But it does mean the league hierarchy is not as complicated as some people want it to be. Caitlin Clark is the one moving the needle. She is the one turning ordinary games into national conversations. She is the one making casual fans care about matchups they never would have watched before. And that is why ESPN's shift feels bigger than just a ranking. It feels like a correction, a quiet admission that the original narrative may have gone too far. Because there is a difference between wanting Angel Reese to be a top star and actually proving that she is one right now. That is the uncomfortable part. Reese can rebound, she can bring energy, she can talk, she can create emotion. But when fans are watching the games, they are also seeing the flaws. They are seeing the offensive limitations. They are seeing the difference between a high-profile player and a player who bends the entire league around her presence. And once fans see that difference, it becomes very hard to sell them a different version of reality. That is why this moment matters. It is not just Angel Reese being criticized. It is Angel Reese being redefined. And sometimes that is even more painful, because when a player is attacked, fans can rally around them. But when a player is redefined, the whole conversation changes. Suddenly, Reese is not being judged as the face of the league. She is being judged as a player who still has major things to prove. That is a very different spotlight. And honestly, it might be exactly what she needs. Because the worst thing that can happen to a young player is being crowned too early. When the praise comes before the complete game, every mistake becomes louder. Every bad shooting night becomes evidence. Every ranking becomes a referendum. Every Caitlin Clark comparison becomes impossible to escape. And that is where Reese is now. She is not just battling opponents. She is battling the expectations that were built around her. But here is the fair part. Angel Reese is not finished, not even close. She can still improve. She can still become a better scorer. She can still sharpen her finishing. She can still turn the criticism into fuel. And if she does that, this ESPN moment might one day look like the turning point that forced her to level up. But right now, the reality is clear. The WNBA is moving into a new era, and Caitlin Clark is the center of that storm. Not because people were told to care, because they actually care. That is the difference. The attention around Clark feels organic. It feels loud because the audience made it loud. It feels unavoidable because every game gives people something to argue about. And when one player creates that much energy, the league has to adjust. ESPN has to adjust. The media has to adjust. Even the fans who do not like it have to adjust. That is what this ranking exposed. It exposed the gap between hype and gravity. Angel Reese still has a place in the WNBA story, but Caitlin Clark is the player pulling the league forward right now, and the longer people pretend that is still up for debate, the more obvious the truth becomes. Because ESPN did not just rank players, they revealed where the conversation is heading. And right now, that conversation is moving away from forced narratives and toward what fans can see with their own eyes. Angel Reese is still famous. She is still marketable. She is still a name people react to. But Caitlin Clark is different. She is the draw. She is the pressure point. She is the player everyone keeps circling back to. And that is why this moment feels so brutal for Angel Reese. Because ESPN did not have to say she was no longer a top WNBA star. The ranking said enough. The reaction said enough. And the Caitlin Clark comparison made the rest impossible to ignore. If you're still watching, drop Clark Effect in the comments.